Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So today I want to talk about betrayal. And so in one of the most epic speeches that we've gotten in One Piece, from Doflamingo in chapter 801, we got a small little detail which has proven to come true on many occasions and I think will continue to be proven correct in other instances. In this speech, Doflamingo talked about the throne wars that is going to take place in One Piece. Who will come out on top? Who will beat whom? And who will betray whom? Since this point that Doflamingo had revealed about possible betrayals in the future, we've gotten quite a few betrayals already and several betrayals hinted at. Capone, Beige, and Big Mom. In addition to this, at this point, Peckham's and Pudding both seem like they've betrayed Big Mom. X-Drake I'm pretty certain, is going to betray Kaido in the future. We've also seen Eustace Kid betrayed by Apu. And then also there's some hints that there might be a traitorous mink. Now you'll notice something very conspicuous about this list of betrayals that I've just given to you, which is that none of them directly affect Luffy and his crew. There's no direct betrayal of the Straw Hats in this list yet. But I don't think that the Straw Hats are going to be immune from these betrayals. I think that there will be a betrayal directly towards them. Now I have two ideas related to this. The first of which is not strong enough for me to want to reveal yet, because it involves a very beloved character who no one would believe would possibly betray Luffy. In fact, I don't even currently believe it. But there are some clues towards it, but I won't be mentioning this. The other one, and this is a lot more palatable, and this is the one that I'll be discussing in this theory, is that it's possible that Law will betray Luffy. This is something that a lot of people have speculated just in general, though they get a feeling that it's possible. But I don't think anyone has ever sat down and taken the time to actually put together a complete theory suggesting that Law might betray Luffy. But that's what I'm here for, right guys? So to start off with, every major theory, pretty much every major theory that is proven right, has its histories dating back to a clue panel. Oda drops these clue panels all the time, and these clue panels lead us to questions or conclusions which can be theorized on to actually come up with something that is correct. And with the case of Law betraying Luffy, this is no exception. Back in the Punk Hazard arc, Caesar said it explicitly. He told Luffy, "Law will definitely betray you." But in the minds of many One Piece readers, things have changed since this point in the story. When Law is first revealed, he is revealed as a clear enemy. But then in the Marineford arc, he took his first step to becoming an ally by choosing to save Luffy, and his reasoning really was that Luffy was a rival and it would be a shame for Luffy to meet his end before they could really confront each other. But still, at the end of the day, Luffy owes his life to Trafalgar Law. But at this point, it's still possible that while Trafalgar Law might at the end of the story be an ally, in the short term, in the future, he might actually end up being an enemy. But then we get to the Punk Hazard arc, and then in this arc, Luffy and Law form an alliance. And so, at the end of the day, what Luffy does is Luffy accomplishes Law's dream of taking out Doflamingo, which we should be sure that Law appreciates him for doing. But I want to make this blatantly clear, which is that Law and Luffy are not yet friends. Friends in the typical word. Law is a schemer. He's a cunning, mischievous character who's willing to use people in order to accomplish his own goals. Why did Law even ally with Luffy in the first place? He claims that it's so that they could take on Kaido, because in order to take on a Yonko, it would be better if the Supernova united. And while this is technically true, Law actually really wanted Luffy's help in defeating Doflamingo, and he didn't actually believe that they were even capable of defeating Doflamingo, let alone Kaido. So his whole goal with this alliance in the first place really had nothing specifically to do with Kaido in the first place. It had to do with his selfish motivation of wanting to take down Doflamingo. But now that Doflamingo is defeated and Law and his crew are all still alive, there's now a problem, which is that Kaido's eyes are looking directly at them. And so this is why Law is still running around with the Straw Hats while the alliance has not been broken yet. Law is one of the smartest characters in the world of One Piece, and he understands that he is not powerful enough to take on Kaido by himself. And so now that he knows that Kaido will be searching for him, then he still needs help in defeating Kaido. And so that's why he's still using Luffy. So I don't think that we should take Luffy's definition of an ally, which is basically a nakama, as what Law truly is. Law doesn't even believe that. They're in alliance in the short term, at least Law believes that, until Kaido is defeated, and then that alliance would be severed. There's several panels pointing to the fact that Law does not believe Luffy to be a nakama at this point in time. When he introduces his crew to the Straw Hat crew, his crew was kind of upset that they didn't actually get any introduction meeting the Straw Hats, and Law was like, well, you don't need any to like get along with them because they're just allies. And then later when Luffy compared being allies as like being friends, Law was like, nope, that's definitely not the case. So for those of you who are saying that Law is already a nakama, I do not believe that to be the case. As of right now, Law is still using Luffy for his own purposes and does not yet believe him to be a friend, just an ally. And honestly, this makes some sense. Law is a supernova, and all of the supernova, all the captains, all are going after the One Piece. This is, inherently true, it's implied, but also Law has explicitly stated that he desires to find the One Piece. And so, assuming that this dream is still something that he wants to accomplish, there's only two possibilities. Either one, he and Luffy fight in order to determine who will be the Pirate King, or at some point in time through their shared journey, Law will come to understand that Luffy is in fact the one who is destined to become the Pirate King and not himself. And while honestly I can believe both of these scenarios to be true, I still wonder just how badly does Law want it? If Law would really just give up his dream of finding the One Piece just because he feels like Luffy is a superior pirate, would honestly be just incredibly disappointing for Law to do as a character. While I do think that Law does respect Luffy, probably more so than any of the other supernova, I don't see this as being I think Luffy is just a better pirate than I am. I see it more as, Luffy is capable of some amazing things, and I respect him for that as a rival. But if he just gives up his desire to find the One Piece because he acknowledges his rival as being superior to him, that would just make him a quitter, and not a very good inheritor of the D initial. And so assuming that Law doesn't give up on finding the One Piece, we're left with an interesting question on whether it is that Law would actually betray Luffy, or if he would clearly tell Luffy that their alliance was over and from this point onward they would be enemies. I honestly don't believe this second scenario would constitute as a betrayal. A betrayal is more of an underhanded thing, so telling someone up front that hey, we're no longer friends wouldn't really be a betrayal. And so again, in this situation, I could see both as potentially being true. It could be that Law gains so much respect for Luffy that he's not capable of betraying him. This is something that, I could definitely see. But on the other hand, Law is shown as a schemer and a conniving character who's willing to do what it takes to win. We can already see that because he straight up lied to Luffy about the purposes of the alliance just so that he could get Luffy's help in defeating Doflamingo. So I definitely don't think that you should ignore the possibility that sometime in the future after Kaido is defeated and Law is safe now from that particular Yonko and there's no real purpose for the alliance, that then his attention would turn to his rival in Luffy. And given his history with fighting against or with Luffy and seeing his powers and knowing his weaknesses, using that against him so that he can defeat him to further his ultimate plan, which is still to find the One Piece and defeat those who are doing the same. A la, as Doflamingo put it, the Throne Wars. And so an interesting side note to this whole conversation is just how much Law knows now through his journeys with the Straw Hats. So on Zoe, the Straw Hats learned so much about ultimately how to find the One Piece, about the road poneglyphs, their locations, all this important information. Law was present for all of that. So right now, I believe it is pretty clear out of all the supernova, the Straw Hats are the ones closest to finding Raftel and finding the One Piece. But by extension, because of their alliance with Law, Law is also equally as close. So that's a little food for thought. The only difference, of course, is that the Straw Hats currently are in possession, I guess, it's not really the right way of putting it, but currently are Nakama with the only person who's capable of understanding the poneglyphs. Law himself is supposedly not capable of doing that. But what's also interesting about this conversation is that there's some foreshadowing that Law is capable of hearing the voice of all creation. We can see that Momonosuke reacts to the voice of Zunisha as well as Luffy. It's pretty much confirmed at this point that Luffy does possess the voice of all things. And so the only other person that really shows any reaction to this voice seemingly is Law. In this panel, and again this was before Momonosuke revealed that he could hear a loud voice, we see Trafalgar Law with the ... of someone who is thinking. And so given the sequence of events, it seems at least highly implied that Law is reacting to something that no one has brought up at this point in time. And then right after that, Momonosuke complains about hearing a loud voice that no one else can hear, perhaps except for Law. Even Luffy doesn't even react to the voice at this point in time. And there is absolutely nothing else that this ... could possibly refer to, at least obviously from the context of the story, except for this voice. And then at the end of the arc where Zunisha is yelling and Jack is attacking it, strangely enough, Oda decides not to show Law at all during the sequence of events. Possibly he's hiding the truth. So we know that Goldie Roger was able to understand the poneglyphs because of his ability to hear the voice of all things. So if Law also possesses this ability, then we could assume that he could also potentially be someone who is capable of finding Raftel by using this ability that he might possess, which actually might come into play later in the story if it's revealed that he hasn't given up on his dream of finding the One Piece. I ask myself, why even give Law this ability if he's never going to use it? Luffy and crew, basically, they have all the tools necessary to find Raftel because they are the ones that will eventually find it. But with Law tagging along with them and being some sort of ally, it would actually add nothing to the story for him to have this ability seemingly, unless he too was also planning on putting the poneglyphs together. And so at the very least, I think that if you believe Law has this ability like I do, then you would have to believe that at some point in time, Law is going to do something related to the poneglyphs on his own volition for himself. Allah, not as a friend of the Straw Hats, i.e. he will actually be some sort of enemy in the future. But of course, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate comments of people who didn't actually watch the entire video, Law at the end of the day will be an ally. By the end of the story, no doubt about it, Law is a friend. I'm just talking about how currently they're just allies. That's how Law views it. And so unless Law gives up on his dream of the One Piece, then he would have to at some point in time confront his rival in Luffy. But after that confrontation is done and Luffy proves to be the superior Pirate King prospect, then he would be a friend. But yeah guys, if you've made it to this part of the video, then let me know what you think. Obviously, as I stated in this video, think that it could go in multiple different directions, but I do think that we should keep in mind the possibility that Law will still be an enemy at some point in the future of One Piece. And given this last bit of evidence with the fact that Law has the voice of all things, I honestly think that's what people should expect at this point in time, despite the fact that the story could go in many different directions. But let me know what you think. Like the video if you liked the video. I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. And as always, dudes, have a wonderful day.